Hello, 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 and thank y'all for joining me on this Thursday, November the 18th. Um, we will get right into it. Today in Black History, November the 18th, 1993, black and white leaders in South Africa approved the new democracy constitution that gave blacks the vote and ended white minority rule. I think that was known as apartheid, or apartheid, however you say it. Um, and then number two, November the 18th, 1978, more than 900 persons, most of them black Americans, died in the mass murder and suicide pact in Jonestown, Ghana. Three, abolitionist and orator Sir Journey Truth was born in 1778. So, tonight we will be talking about social justice, and I have Lorna LaCroix on the phone with me, and she will be giving her input on it as well. So, without further ado, let's get started. I got a couple of notes and everything. I did a couple of little research today, Lorna, so that we can have stuff to talk about. But mainly, we wanted to talk about the trials that's going on. Uh, the Kyle Rittenhouse House trial and the Ahmaud Arbery trial. Um, they are very, very different trials. The judge in Ahmaud Arbery's trial is fair. He is very, very fair. Um, I saw that today, how fair he is. The one in Kyle Rittenhouse trial is really not that fair. He sides more with Kyle. To me, he sides more with Kyle than he does the prosecuting side. So, and it's going into the third day of deliberation. So, I guess the defense thought it would be a slam dunk and they would come back with a not guilty real quick, but they're really looking into everything. So, I think there's going to be a charge on something. But Lorna, the judge can still declare a mistrial. And I don't think that's right. I think he should say right away whether he is or is not. But in Wisconsin, they can wait until the verdict is read, and then he can go in and declare a mistrial, and 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 then he could declare for prejudice, and they can't ever try him again.
That's right. And the scary part is, I think he's already showed us that he's going to do that anyway. He has mentioned throughout the entire trial things that can cause a mistrial. So I'm just waiting to see what his go-to excuse will be.
Yeah, and
I don't know if it's going to be hung jury or not.
me either, me either. But I don't think there's a minority, or maybe one minority person on that jury. But
But,
but at any rate, if they had any, hey James, how you doing? Dust James, how you doing? If they had any kind of heart or any kind of soul about themselves, whether you're black, white, blue, brown, or yellow, you would know that that was wrong, regardless
yeah,
of what color, what religion, whatever you are. That was wrong. First of all, he had no reasoning at all to come over there.
right, right. He
There was
lived 2 hours
with
away.
a gun. That right there is intimidating enough
Hmm.
for
Yeah,
you to come over there 2 hours away with a gun and run through the crowd with the gun, and then they were trying to say it was self-defense because the other guy hit him with a skateboard. But you cannot tell me that getting hit with a skateboard is the reason for you to die.
no, 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 it's not.
There's
No, it's not.
absolutely no reason for that. So the meaning of social justice. Social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. So and I have a lot of meanings of social justice, and if Kyle Rittenhouse get off, then I think that'll be an injustice to social justice.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
it, it,
And
it won't be right. Barry, hey Barry, how are you doing? We were talking mainly, Barry, about the Rittenhouse trial and how if he gets off, it'll be injustice to social justice. So, um, because those young men deserved not to be dead. They didn't have to die. He could have chose a different way, but he knew when he went there with that gun that he was gonna kill someone.
Right.
I do believe that.
That's
Thus,
right.
thus said, national liberation is far better demand than social justice. Go farther than addressing the symptoms. Dismantle the institution racism and systemic racism. Lorna said, Katie Wright. Who is that?
Yeah. I tagged her into this conversation. That is Dante Wright's mom.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I
y'all.
don't know. I
She,
don't know if she'll be able to get on here tonight. His trial is 12 days away. I want to
okay.
remind y'all about that and to help us stay on top of this, to hold them accountable. Kim Potter, her charges haven't even been up to murder. This is the woman, to remind y'all, this is the woman that pulled out her taser, or her gun, and said it was her taser,
Taser.
and to kill someone. Yeah. Dante Wright, say his name.
Dante Wright. That's right. And Katie Wright is his mother. So, yeah. So, yeah, Dust, I did see your post and you're right. But, let me see. If you follow debates over strident style of social justice politics, often derided, derived as wokeness, you might have heard about a document called Advancing High Equality, a guide to language, narrative, and concept, put on by American Medical Association. I don't care about that. Let's see. Uh, let me find something else. Social justice has to do with the belief that all people, that word right there, all people should have equal rights and opportunities. However, there is a lot of confusion about what exactly this means. To more fully understand social justice, it helps to examine its history. And that is true. I think that's mainly, hey, Edward, thank you. I think that's mainly what Dust was saying about it, too, that it goes way back. Social justice started a long time ago. I think to me, social justice started in slavery, and I know I always go back to that, but that's our history. And
Yeah.
so I think it started. We still don't have social justice.
No.
Um, it says history of social justice. The concept of social justice has religious roots, originating in 1843 from the Italian philosopher and priest Luigi Tabaglioli, whatever his name is. According to the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, a non-profit educational organization. Social justice as a part of its teaching through Pope Pius V in 1931 of the 11th. These early documentations of social justice addressed the growing gap between the rich and the poor after the Industrial Revolution into the Progressive era. Okay, hey, Maury, thank you so much for watching. Okay, so I think, to me, uh, we as black people uh, really could never have social justice, because as long as we're out here fighting for our rights, still fighting for a change, we can never have social justice. There would and if when we don't have justice, instead of it being justice, it's just ice, because it's cold, it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
It goes nowhere. Racism is a tool to divide and further exploit the entire working class. Racism is an enemy of all working folks. It is, but it's more so the enemies of people of color
Yeah.
in the working class.
Yeah.
Because go ahead, Lorna, if you got something to say. And
No,
if you,
I agree 100%
yeah,
with what you just said.
because we have to work and struggle harder to get those jobs that you know, y'all can just walk in off of the out of the college dorm and get the job that we've been trying to get for the last 10 or 15 years.
Or a perfect example is that the victims in the Arbery, his defendant's trial, that he's made to be look like the victim.
Yeah.
All right, that they're made to look like the victim. He's still looking like the predator, the bad guy.
And same with Kyle Rittenhouse. He's made to look like the victim. If it was the other way around, if it was three black men that did this to a white man running, do y'all know how different that would be? That wouldn't have been a 10-day trial.
No, there wouldn't have. There wouldn't have even been a trial.
They would have already been in prison convicted. So, just like, to me, it's racist when I know I'm getting off the subject a bit, but I have to say it. Today I was watching a program on TV, and they were showing the little impoverished kids, and every time they show the starving or hungry kids, they're either black or brown kids. You know, so to me that's saying y'all are saying there is no white kids that are starving. There is no, Dust said, great conversation, speaking truth. And I hate to see those commercials because y'all go to the worst of the worst, to the poorest of the poor, and y'all film little black kids with flies flying all in their eyes and little stuff coming out of their mouth and saying feed the children, but the children don't get half of that money or that's being sent to them. The people who's endorsing that get, and then they show white doctors taking care of these black kids. You never see black doctors over there taking care of them. So it goes back to the white man taking care of the black person again. Here we go. You know, that is exactly what it is. And those commercials really upset me because, like I said, the only people they show in those commercials are little black kids with their stomach protruding and crying because they're so hungry, and they show the black parents, you know, just really impoverished. But they don't show, I've never seen a commercial where you see white kids in that situation. That's sending a message to me that white kids aren't impoverished like that, and they are.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are, but they don't fit the
narrative, the description.
That's right. That's right.
So I mean, and that there, to me, I don't know how y'all, but to me, that's not giving, you know, that's not social justice to me. That, you know, it's really downgrading to us, to be honest, and that's the kind of stuff we have to keep fighting for. That's the kind of justice we have to keep fighting for. Why are you just showing our black kids or our brown kids or the Indian kids? Why don't you show some white kids that's impoverished that we have to help feed?
Yeah, because I mean, basically for a kid to end up in that situation, there's an adult to blame, right?
Yes.
That's exactly why. That's why, because they don't want it to look like there's a white adult responsible. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, we would never, and I hate, it's sad that I'm saying this on November 18th of 2021, but we will never have social justice. We will never have social justice. We can fight and fight and fight, and we've been fighting. If you think about it, we have been fighting. You think by now we wouldn't have to still be fighting. That's why I say we'll never have social justice, because we've been fighting for the last 400 years just to take 2 steps in the right direction.
Yeah,
you know?
I couldn't imagine. I know a lot of older people of color they didn't want to get out in 2020 and protest for that reason. They're tired. They just don't see an end in sight. But if we keep it growing, then it's going to, our grandchildren are going to carry it on. raising them, we need to stay loud so that they live by our example.
Exactly. We and they're using the term woke. They no. We're the ones that need to stay woke, and we're the ones that needs to keep saying, "Hey, this is wrong," and we've been doing it for years. The Dust said the same way they treat black people and brown folks here, they treat the entire continents of Africa, um, Latin America, and Asian only worse. White supremacy is a global problem. It has been a global problem, and it will continue to be a global problem.
Right, right. It's not, we're not stating that it's white Americanism, which that's bad enough in itself. But no, white supremacy is exactly that. White supremacy.
Supremacy, and they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't. What's going on in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and in the Ahmaud Arbery trial is white privilege at its finest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It, it's on both sides. It's white privilege because how can a man get up there and say today somebody standing outside with a Black Lives Matter mask on?
oh, yes.
But there would be nothing said if somebody was standing outside with a white hood on. That wouldn't have been a distraction.
He was mad. He was mad that they were outside with sweatshirts that said, "I support black pastors."
Yes,
Because you remember last week when he said, "We don't need any more black pastors in here."
right, right. So I would have thrown that out just on the fact that to me that's a racist comment. Now, what would you do if white pastors walked in there and sit down and was for Ahmaud Arbery? Would you say we don't need any more white pastors in here?
Well, that judge, and I'm not going to say impressed, but his judges are supposed to be fair. But I am happy at least that the judge has been fair so far in
Yes,
what he's worked out.
right, he has. But my point is about the attorney. If a box full of, or a truck full of white pastors came in there and sit down, and they was for the defendants, or they were sitting on the defendant's side, there would be nothing said.
No, no, there wasn't.
He'd probably welcome him. I like to welcome Pastor such and such. He's here. That this is and I know we're talking about social justice, but I might as well be talking about in social justice because that's what's going on.
Well, you can't have one without the other, can you?
Right. So that's exactly what's going on because it just made me sick to my stomach. Some of the stuff that the guy broke down and was crying, the one in Ahmaud Arbery's trial, saying that Ahmaud Arbery came after him when clearly they debunked that and said he was running away, didn't say a word to him, and they chased him down.
He didn't have a weapon. And anybody that sees that video that actually watches it, they can clearly see that it's a modern day lynching. They chased him down.
Yes.
I cannot even imagine how terrifying that has to be. I can't. But they terrorized the man. It was a lynching.
Yeah. And see, I have to worry. My son could be the next Ahmaud Arbery. You know what I'm saying? I have to worry about that. That's something that I have to worry about.
That's right.
That's something, Lorna, you'll never have to worry about.
That's right. I couldn't even imagine having to worry about that. I couldn't, and I get all I can do is keep fighting.
That that's that's all we can do. And there's been people fighting for us for 400 years. I seen a guy this week. I don't know if y'all seen it. He had been in jail, prison for 55 years. 55 years. And they just finally, exonerated him and let him go. But he had been in prison for 55 years.
And what about Julius? Just
Yeah.
today was on the death row in Oklahoma, and it's proved there was another man. It's proven that he was innocent. The parole board and the pardoning board actually
But they didn't let him out though.
No, I know.
They
I know.
reduced his sentence to life in
Right?
prison. You know,
Yeah.
so if you got evidence that he's innocent, um, then why didn't you let him out? Why would you reduce him to life in prison? I mean, he's still essentially on death row because he's never gonna get out of prison.
Well, we're not going to be quiet till he does.
Right, and we shouldn't be. And that's what I say. We, as long as there's people not fighting, we'll never get justice.
That's right. That's right.
If,
That's right.
go ahead.
I think you're right when you say that there's never going to be social justice, but it's because there's always going to be social injustice. I guess the more important thing would be how do we fight it?
I mean, but I mean that was a question they was asking. Martin Luther King was asking that back in the '60s. You
Yeah,
know, how do we? Rosa Parks was asking that when she got, taken off the bus. How do we fight this?
yeah,
And they kept fighting, but I mean, look at how long we've been fighting just to get, um cops convicted for killing us, and they're still not getting convicted like they
yeah,
should be.
yeah. They're not getting their full charges they're supposed to be
Right.
charged
So
with either.
so there is no easy way to fix this.
No,
You
there's
know.
not.
Okay, so we get to sit at the front of the bus now. So we get to come into the front of the restaurants now. But that fight is still not over.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
got to keep continuing to make strides. And by us being quiet and by us not saying nothing and by us just saying, okay, it didn't happen to me, we're never gonna get the justice we deserve. We're not gonna get it anyway, but by us being quiet, that's not helping at all.
no,
You
it's
know,
not.
I see, and I hate to say it, but when we're out protesting, I see more white people out there than I see black people.
Is that because they're tired? I would think. Is that right? Or they
I
need?
I don't know if they're tired or they just feel like, well, if it ain't hit in my ballpark, then I'm not gonna fool with it. You know,
Oh,
a lot of them feel like, well, I don't know. I feel like that, they're being quiet because they just feel like it ain't hitting in their ballpark. So until something happens to me, then I'm gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna say anything. No, no,
right.
you gotta act like it is your child.
Yeah, you
You
do.
gotta fight like it's your child that's out there getting that done to them.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being one of these mothers. Ahmad's mother today, she gasped out loud, and what the one man with the white hair,
Yeah, he wanted to declare mistrial one day because she was crying.
his fiance got her face today in the gallery and shushed her. Yeah, shushed her, told
Who
her to
did?
be quiet.
What happened?
That guy's fiance, what's his name? That was his name Potter. I don't know his the the one with the funky haircut and white hair.
Yes.
His fiance got in Mrs. Arbery's face and shushed her, told her to be quiet.
See,
Shh.
see
Yeah,
what kind of and she should have been dismissed at the courtroom.
yeah, yeah.
See,
It's
what kind of justice is that?
yeah.
What kind of fairness is that? That's not fair.
That's a victim's mother.
Mother, you
They,
know?
they they're too busy trying to make Ahmad look like the instigator.
Yeah, oh, we need to talk about his mental health. And they said he was on parole or probation. That doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it. At least let him be alive to be on probation.
Yes.
He's not even alive to be on probation. Y'all took that away from him when
Yeah.
y'all shot him in cold blood.
Yeah. I know. They, ugh, yes, they're the judge, jury, and executioner. Disgusting. They knew what they were going to do. They knew what they
When they were following him around, they knew exactly what they were going to do. So no, we don't have social justice.
No.
We've never had it, and we will never get it. It says typically those who strive for social justice seeks the redirection of power to enhance the well-being of individuals through equal access to health care, justice, and economic opportunity.
I,
So I mean that
I think
go ahead.
that, no, I think it's just giving someone the right to be alive.
Yes,
Is what it's come down to.
but when they wrote this, when and like I said the other night in one of my shows, when they wrote the Constitution, they didn't. We weren't in. They wasn't considering us in there.
Mm-mm. No.
This is why we have to fight so hard. Because when they wrote stuff, when they wrote like the Declaration of Independence, when they wrote the Constitution, when they wrote the Pledge of Allegiance, we weren't included.
No.
When they said liberty and justice for all, that did not mean us. We was not. We was not part of the A, part of the L, or the L. We wasn't a part of it.
No, none of it. None of it.
Yeah, nowhere in there when they say all does that include us.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay.
Thus said, all races and classes are equally likely to do drugs, but black and brown people are far more likely to be imprisoned for it, used as cheap prison labor, and they have charges after they get out. Exactly. It,
Isn't it the 13th Amendment that says that the only way a person can be a slave is if they're a prisoner?
I don't know. I don't know about anything about the amendments, Lorna, because they was not written for us.
That's right.
So
That's
I don't get into them because and they say I think that's what they say about the 13th amendment, but the none of the amendments was written for us. If it was, then Colin Kaepernick will be still be playing football
yeah.
if it was
Yeah.
written for us. But when, like I said, there is no way we can have social justice.
No, there's not.
There is no way because we're still fighting. It's just done in a different way now. We're still fighting for the same stuff we were fighting for 400 years ago.
Yeah, you're still fighting for the world to realize your life matters.
Yeah, and we're still fighting for acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so we're still, uh, and we may take itty bitty baby steps, you know, and then people be like, oh, we just did this to pacify them, you know, so they could
Yeah.
hush.
Like the name change.
Yeah, we're just doing this so they can hush. Because
Yeah.
if we don't do it so they can hush, they'll be out here. They'll still be out here. And we shouldn't have to fight like that for a name change.
No, we shouldn't. No,
You know, they should know that that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
wrong. And it's been wrong and it's going to continue to be wrong. But we shouldn't have to get out and walk the souls out of our shoes because they don't want to change the name. And we have to fight this hard to get them to change the name. You know, there shouldn't be people, Lorna, outside of either one of these courthouses saying, look, you know, we need justice for Ahmaud.
Yeah.
You know, we need justice for the people that Kyle killed. We should not be outside of a courthouse saying this. They should know that it's wrong. And why even go to court if you are wrong? Skip the taxpayers' dollars. We're the one paying this. Skip the taxpayers' dollars and say, hey, let's just incarcerate them. But like
Yeah.
they say, everybody has a right to equal justice, but that's not true.
That's right.
Because it wouldn't be equal if it was black people that was doing it.
Yeah.
So
and
so we're still fighting for our social justice. And we're
Yeah.
still fighting for justice, period. You know, equity. It's easy to confuse the terms equity and equality, but those things which are equitable are not always equal, and that is true. That is so true. The effort and resources required for two different people to achieve a common goal can vary widely, and that there is true. For example, in order to complete a college degree, some students may need more support and educational resources than their peers do. To achieve social justice and ensure equal opportunities for success, it is important to provide equitable resources that focus on the specific needs of communities and individuals within them. You know, and people are talking, and I think with this, they're talking about the affirmative action. Well, if it wasn't for affirmative action, we wouldn't be able to get in any of the schools.
Yeah.
You know, we had to, once again, Lorna, here we go back to what we had to fight to do. We had to fight and to be able to get in schools like Yale and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We had to fight. We
Yeah.
we had to prove that we are just as smart, or if not smarter, than any other race. We had to prove that.
Yeah. 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 You weren't. Black people weren't even given the dignity just to considered as a human
Right,
during slavery.
right.
Even even today, even today.
And we're still, like I said, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna keep sounding like that until people realize that we shouldn't have to be fighting like this. We shouldn't have to keep fighting in order to get our social justice, in order to get our equal justice. We shouldn't have to come on a platform like Facebook and talk about stuff like this on November the 18th of 2021.
Yeah. It's true.
You know, no one, unless you've been through it, unless knows how it feels to every time your son or daughter goes out, you have to be worried about them, or they're gonna come. I pray to God every day that my son's car doesn't break down.
Yeah.
I have to pray to God. And Lorna, like I said earlier, that's something you'll probably never have to be worried about.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
I pray two reasons this car don't break down. Number one, because I ain't got the money to fix it, and number two is because he's a black man. You know, and I just pray that God, if he does break down, please let me get to him as fast as I can, or get one of my brothers to go there and help him, because I know what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
Anyway, it said, Duff said, black folks in the U.S. have 5 times less wealth and buying power. Racism is used as an obstacle to opportunity to keep folks in low paying jobs, to exploit their labor. Capitalism is the root of racism. And that is so true. That is true. And I don't know if y'all will agree with me, but I think now this is just my opinion. I think the reason that they're stopping abortions is because mainly white women were getting abortions. Well, it eventually make the white people a minority.
Yeah.
So they had to cut out, hey, you can't get abortions. We need y'all to keep the babies so that we can continue to reign supreme over every other race. If y'all keep getting abortions, it's going to make us the minority.
Yeah. And then they're more than willing to be baby factories for 'em.
Right. So that to me is why they had to stop having abortions, or they had to cut down. He made it so it looked like he's saying that to all women, but the governor know exactly what he's doing. He's
Right.
doing that so the white women can stop having abortion, so they can continue to be, so white folk can continue to be the majority.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it's sad, but that's just my opinion on it. So
That makes sense.
huh?
It makes sense. It
Yeah,
really does.
yeah. So I mean, That, like I said, that's just the and you know we'll never have people say human rights or whatever. I don't know what that means to tell you the truth. You know, I don't actually know what human rights mean because we don't have our rights isn't the same as everybody else's rights.
Yeah.
So I really don't know what they mean when they say human rights. I know I'm a human, but I don't really have any really no rights like I'm supposed to have.
Right. Yeah, maybe on paper they have it down there, but not in reality.
Right. In reality, we don't have the rights that we should have. So when they say human rights, I don't think there's another thing there that I don't think we're included in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree with that.
So
100%.
you know, I just it just so we can't get social justice until we get human rights, and we can't get human rights until we start being treated like we're human beings.
Yeah.
You know, animals, and I'm gonna tell you, animals have more rights than black people have. You kill an animal. There was a man here that killed a dog and got
Yeah.
6 months probation. Polices are killing black people and getting off scot free. Now you tell me animals don't have more rights than black people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So and that's sad, but it's true.
It is true.
You go kill a dog and see how much time you'll get versus killing a black person.
Yeah. I look at Derek Chauvin. What did he? 25 years. If he even starts that, but 25 years, that's not good enough anyway.
I mean, but the guy, okay, so the guy that I said stayed in prison for 55 years, he killed the police officer. Black guy. He got life in prison. But then the circumstances and he was 17 and blah blah blah. He got life in prison. But just as he killed a human being, Derek Chauvin killed a human being.
Yep.
So why couldn't Derek Chauvin meet the same fate that this guy met?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it's two reasons. Well, I guess three would be white, man,
Mm-hmm.
and cop.
That's probably all three of them.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that's all three of them. So yeah, what? So when I ask what does social justice mean, no one can really say what it means to us because no one really knows what it means to us. Now, Lorna, it means something different from you than it does to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It means
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
totally different to you than it does to me. Social justice to me means that I don't even know. We have to keep fighting for the same stuff we've been fighting for the last 400 years, just so we can move an inch.
Yeah. Does it even feel like you've moved an inch?
Well, I can say an inch because it does feel like from 400 years ago, we are able, like I said, to sit at the front of the bus. We are
Right.
able to go in front doors now. We are able to go to the same schools as white people. We are able to eat at the same restaurants. But yet, at the same time, when we're in these places, we're treated differently.
But
So I see your point about have we even moved an inch?
no, you haven't. What are those things? The things that you should have already been able to do?
Right.
Sit on the front of a bus?
Right. Go in the front door to a restaurant, drink out of the same water fountain, like you said. This is the things that we should have already been doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We shouldn't have had to fight for it. This is human nature. This is stuff that, you know, now if we chose to come in the back door, you got a front and a back door. If we chose to come in the back door, that's on us. But
Right.
we didn't have that choice. We were made to come in the back door.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something, and I'm just being frank. it would have never changed if a white person hadn't spoke up and said, hey, this is wrong. How y'all are doing, black people. Because there's white people out there, people like you, that's out there fighting just as hard, if not harder than black people.
We have the energy and we have the mental ability to do it because we don't have to live.
And y'all have the whiteness to do it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we don't have to live the life that you have to live. I definitely don't have to go through those obstacles. I don't know what that's like. But I do know that you shouldn't have to fight for justice alone. That's all. That's it. I could never imagine what a day in your life must be like.
Right. And we had to, like I said, it took white people to get out there and fight and say, hey, this isn't right. The way they're being treated is not right. And then they decide, okay, well, since, a white person spoke up, we'll change it. But if it was just us out here fighting, it wouldn't have gotten changed. And I believe that with every fiber of my being.
Yeah, I agree.
And so social justice is not the same for everybody. And I talk about us, but look at how they do the what do they call indigenous people, the Native Americans. Look at how they do them. I mean, I watch westerns, and I see how they used to have the army, and the army would just specifically be for the Native American people. They would just be for the Indians, chase Indians down and kill them. That's what they were for. I mean, and it's like it's like, Lorna, that white people have a problem with every single race.
Yeah, it is. You're right, and religion too.
Yeah, it's the socialist countries have far better records on combating racism, yet are constantly demonized by the media. Just and black and brown folks are here. Nicaragua has given immunity, political power, and political power and infrastructure to an entire region of their country that is predominantly Afro-Native mixed folks. Yeah, but we can't do that in the U.S. because I'm going to tell you why. Because, like Lorna said, 2 words, white and then man. And I'm including woman and man when I say man.
Oh, yeah.
We will never have the social justice that we should have. We would never be able to be judged by the content of our character. As Martin Luther King, and he was saying this back in 1968. People ought to be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of our character. We are still being judged. Ahmaud Arbery was shot down in cold blood, not because of his character, but because of the color of his skin. We don't know anything about his character. We didn't get to know him. But and then another thing I want to address, Lorna, and this is why I'm fighting so hard for the NAACP to take the word colored out of their name. You know that man, the owner of that house, was saying, oh, there's a colored boy in our house. And the cops was calling him colored. Oh, they just shot a colored boy. That is Jim Crow offensive.
It is.
That is Jim Crow racism.
Yeah.
And that's why I am fighting so hard to get that word colored removed from the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, because that is just plain hurtful. And it's mean, and it's attached to a whole lot of pain.
Right. What, have you heard back?
I haven't heard anything. But I'm gonna keep fighting, cause that's what we do. We have to fight in order to get justice. We have to keep fighting, even though they know it's wrong. But I'm gonna tell you something. At the head of the NAACP is a what? A white man.
Oh, are you? I did not know that.
Yes, at the very top, you may see the local president around here, but there's somebody above the president.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There has to be. Yeah. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that's why the name won't be changed.
No.
But I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting because if I, and that's what we have to do in order to make a change. We have to keep fighting. We're in a fight for our lives every day of our lives. We're fighting for our lives.
You know, I struggle now as an adult. I look back on my life, and whenever I first started noticing that there needed to be others fighting for social justice, when I was a child, I felt guilty for thinking that way. And this is how the typical white child pretty much feels, is because we're taught that we're superior.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, thank God. My parents didn't do that to me. But with society, I did. I thought that there was something wrong with me. Now I see that there wasn't, that it was right, but maybe that's why we can't really get anywhere either, because it's indoctrinated in us.
Yes. Gus says, do you think people of color is a singular color? What time? No, Gus, with the people of color, that's describing Indians, Japanese, Chinese, Somalians, black, Hispanic. When you say colored people, there are no other race of people called colored people.
Yeah.
No, wherever you go, if you say colored people, they know automatically you're talking about black people. And I prefer to be called black because I have African American friends. And they're like, you're not African American. You know, they're African American. You know, they got their American citizenship and they're African. So they're African American. So I prefer black. That's just me, though. I prefer black. But did you know, Dust, that we are the only race, and I'm not just talking about the derogatory name, but we are the only race that doesn't know what to be called. We are the only race that's Negro, we're called colored, we're called African American, we're called Afro American, we're called, I may have said it, Negro. Now we got people of color. We are the only race that doesn't know what to be called.
Wow. You're right. And then you have your racist.
Right. And then not
saying
talking about, yeah, that's what, not the N word, we're called that. We're called jigaboos, we're called monkeys, we're called all kinds of stuff. We're the only race that has that many names to characterize us by.
Right.
That's us. So when you describe Delia Gray, don't describe me as an African American. You describe me as a proud black woman.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
You know, because I mean, and some people say, "Well, I ain't black, I'm brown." This is some black people. I ain't black, I'm brown. But tell me when you ever went to go fill out an application and they say, "Are you black or brown?" They don't say it.
No.
Tell me when they're describing you to the police officer, is she, what color is her skin, black or brown? They don't say it. They describe you as a black person. So, I mean, black people are saying that, Lauren. Oh, I ain't black, I'm brown. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, maybe, but no, you're right. You're right. In the eyes,
Yeah, technically I'm brown,
right?
but that's not how we are classified. On any application you fill out, there is no spot for brown. There is
Okay.
no spot for brown. When they ask you what your race is, I went and had my mammogram the other day and I had to fill out some paper. They asked me what race I was. I wrote on there human,
Yeah.
and they wanted, and I asked them, why was that important?
Yeah. Why is it? Is it so that they can keep
Record of how many
track of?
people. Well, let me tell you another story. So every year, this church, the First Baptist Church in downtown Tyler, gives away free hams for Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, they're doing it this Saturday. And so we would have to fill out a card, and they would ask what race you was, and everybody else was putting on there, their race. So I asked, I said, well, where is the pastor at of this church? So they went and got Brother Anderson or whatever his name is. They went and got him, and they brought him over there. And I said, "Let me ask you a question. Why do we have to put what race you are?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. It's just to see how many people that we're giving out the hams to." I said, "But why should it matter if you are? Thank you, Dust. If you are black, white, blue, or brown, if y'all are helping people, it shouldn't matter what race you are." So
Yeah.
guess what my big mouth did, Lorna? The next year we went back, and he had a different card that didn't have anything to do about race on there.
Oh
Didn't have
wow.
nothing to do with race. And so I found him. I said, "I see that you changed the cards." He said, "Yes." He said, "Because you said something." He said, "I
Oh
had been
wow.
doing this program for 15 years and nobody ever brought it to my attention."
Wow.
And he said, "When
Wow.
you said something," he said, "I went to bed and I could not sleep at night because I could not think of one reason why we put race on there."
Yeah. No, well, good.
And he
Good.
changed that because
Wow.
I asked him, what does it matter what race we are?
Yeah. Why? Why? It doesn't. Yeah. There's no need for it.
You're passing out free hams, you're giving away hams. Who doesn't matter that you if you give more to the black people, or if you give more to white people, or if you give more to Hispanic people? What does it matter?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. If you're helping someone, you need to help them. Or if you're giving them something, you need to give it to them no matter race, color, creed, sex, religion. It should not matter. And he changed that. And from there on, he has not put that on his cards because it took one person
Right.
to say
See.
something. And if you was to ask him, why did you change these cards? He'll tell you, because one person. And every year when he sees me, he says, "Oh, you're the one that got me to change those cards." I said, "Yeah, how are you doing?" And he remembers me. He doesn't know my name. He doesn't know anything about me.
Right.
He just knows that I was the one that stood up and said, "Hey, why do you need the word race on these cards? What does that matter?"
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you, I'm gonna tell you another story. How I was up at the clinic. I was where was I? I was on the seventh floor of before they built the was I at Mother? Yes, I was at Mother Francis, and I was at the. This was years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was getting my mammogram at Ross Breast Center. Uh, Thank you, Dust. Yes, we do. He said we need millions of Delias speaking up for a change, and they had Fox News on. All over the thing, they had Fox News. And so I went to the front desk and I told the lady, I said, "I don't think it's fair that I have to sit here and be forced to watch Fox News." I said, "Not all of us agree with Fox News." And
Yeah. Right.
she said, "Well, that's what the manager put it on." I said, "Can I see the manager, please?"
Good.
And I speak out like that. I speak up
See what
because
they say.
so the manager came out and she said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Y'all have this on Fox News. And I said, I have to sit in here and endure this. And I said, not everybody believes in Fox News.
Mhm.
I had to go back a week later for my results. They had it on Home and Garden Channel.
There you go. There
They
you
had it
go.
on Home and Garden Channel. And the lady at the back, she was black, and she was like, I feel the same way, but I can't say nothing, because she had to work there. She was like, but I can't say anything, but I feel the same way, because she called me back to get my, and everybody heard me, because I said it loud enough,
Good.
because I wanted the Foxites to hear me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That we don't, and that'd be just like sitting there making them watch MSNBC, and they don't believe in what MSNBC said. Put it on something neutral that everybody can watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, you got that done.
right? Once again, though, that's fighting for social justice. That's
Yeah.
fighting so everybody could be equal. That's fighting so that everybody would be able to enjoy the TV show, and it just wouldn't be towards one race or one political affiliation.
Yeah. I got. Wow. I
So,
mean,
so,
I
so,
can't believe they actually changed it.
yes, they changed it because I raised, and she thought I wasn't gonna say nothing. The manager came, she said yes, and, or what do you call them, the the
Like human relations
the
or
the
whatever.
the no the business manager. She was, the office manager. That's what it was. She
Oh,
came
okay.
and she was like, yes, like I wasn't gonna say nothing. Like I was gonna say, oh, nothing. I was just saying if you were having a good day. No, I'm gonna say something
That's right. That's
because the
right.
only way you can get it changed is if you say something. You have to fight. We have to fight for change. And I told her, I don't think it's right. I don't see the same as they see Fox News. And there was a guy sitting way off in the corner I believe, so that he didn't have to watch it. And
Oh, I'm with you.
that's not fair to everybody. Put it on something, a home and garden show. If nobody likes that, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Or at least it's not like
At least you're
making
not
some twisted
forcing
reason.
stuff. You're forcing me to watch this. You're forcing me to try to believe what you want me to believe, what you want me to believe you believe, or whatever I'm trying to say. You're forcing me to believe like you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Why should it just be you that gets to decide?
Right.
Yeah.
So when I went back for my results, they had it on Home and Garden, and I said, and I brought it up to her. I said, I see y'all changed the TV. She said, the lady at the reception was like, yeah, we did, because I was offended. It offended
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and
It is offensive.
and I'm gonna speak what I feel, and then I feel what I speak. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do.
So, but that all of this rolls into social justice.
Yeah, it does.
It all rolls into it. Why should we have to keep fighting for our social justice? Why don't it just come like it's supposed to come? Why don't it come to us like it comes to everybody else? Why does Ahmaud Arbery's mom have to set up in a courtroom and watch her son be criminalized for just being black?
Right.
The man said, and they always use that as a defense. Oh, we were defending ourselves. First of all, there were three guys on one guy. How can y'all tell me that three guys couldn't take a guy to the ground and hold him if y'all thought he was doing wrong until the cops got there?
If they were so scared of him, why did they chase him to begin with?
Right. But when you caught him, three of y'all, and they were bigger then, they've lost weight since they've been in jail, could not sit on this skinny little black man and hold him down if y'all thought he was doing wrong until the police got there.
Well, they had to.
Because y'all had every intention of killing him when you was chasing him down.
Yep.
Because you got mad, because when you said stop, he didn't say yes, a master, and stop.
You're right. You're right.
he was running away from them. And then he said, oh, he grabbed the gun. Well, if you're trying to kill me, yes, I'm going to grab the gun to try to point it down to the ground.
God, I couldn't imagine the terror, like, terrorize, like, that Arbery. I couldn't imagine that.
Doug says, have you thought about using StreamYard or Believe you can stream to Facebook and YouTube at the same time and bring comments on screen? Doug, I have been asking for help. I am not very good at social media, at getting on Facebook. I wish someone could help me do that. I want people to help me. I've reached out to different people. Nobody seems to want to help me. You know, I've had a couple of people who gave me a few little pointers, but I want to be able to get on platforms, different platforms, because I think this is the kind of stuff we need to talk about.
What is one of the first things you remember that made a huge impact on your life when it comes to social justice that you remember?
That I remember. Let's see. I'm thinking back. It's so many. I gotta think the number one thing I remember. You know, that's a good question. I can't remember the one thing, not the one thing that made a difference. I'm thinking back in the 80s when, I think when the big drug thing came. When the big drug and gun things came of the 80s and 90s, I think that made a big impact on me because, Lorna, what that did was it set us up for failure.
Yeah.
What they did is they tried to demolish us by saying we'll introduce, since they're not, we can't take them out no other way, we'll introduce them to this drug.
Yeah.
We'll introduce them to crack cocaine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop a truckload of guns and weapons into their neighborhood so they can get them and kill each other with it.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, that's what I remember when how it was all over the news. And if you look at the movie with Ice Cube and them, Straight Outta Compton, it really tells about what was going on in the 80s and 90s through the big drug things, you know, and everything. So that's what I remember the most, and that's what, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. Reagan did that. Reagan did that to us. Mm-hmm. Ronald Reagan. People idolized Reagan. Oh, he was one of the best presidents we had.
No.
You know, but this is what he did to us as black people. Okay. This is a couple of questions I have, and then I'm going to let y'all go. What is the most important aspect, and this is a quiz, of social justice? Is it equal opportunity, equal no matter what, all of these, or getting along with everyone else?
Equal no matter what.
That's the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I feel. Let's see. Why do we need social justice? Because of money? Because it makes the world a better place? I don't care? Or because you're just doing it because someone else did it? Because it'll make the world a better place.
Yeah, I mean, that's off, that, really. I would think because it has to be done, in order for us to all live in the world.
I got like 3 more. What is an example of social justice? Is it Black Lives Matter, gender equality, women's suffrage, or all of the above?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Mm-hmm.
What is gender equality? Equally based on race, equally based on gender, a toy, or a food? It's equally based on gender.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the last 2. What is racism? Judging someone before you meet them by their culture, religion, or color of skin. the apocalypse, another word for YOLO, you only live one, or a position of honor.
The first one.
Right, but it could be a position of honor because that's what racism is when white people think they have that position of honor.
Yeah.
But it technically is the first one. But I'm saying it could be the last one because that's what white people think. Okay, and the last one. How no, that's not the one. Which of the following issue is relevant to social justice? Race equality, sexual freedom, socioeconomic equality, or all of the above?
The first one to me.
Well, yeah, it could be. Or it could be all of the above.
All of the above, yeah. That one's kind of, what was it again?
Okay. Which of the following issues is relevant to social justice? Racial equality, sexual freedom, social economic equity, or all of the above?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, all of the above.
Okay, but yeah, okay, and I promise you this is the last one. I thought that it says which of the following terms describes the overarching societal concern about what is right and what is wrong? Social justice, community justice, criminal justice, or civil justice?
That would be social justice.
Social justice. Um, social justice. And that I asked because all of it comes back to social justice. If we don't have social justice, we can't have community justice. If we don't have social justice, we can't have community or civil justice.
Yeah.
So social justice wraps it all up in one. So thank you, Dusty. It's a great question. But y'all, that's my show for tonight. I hope y'all really enjoying it. And Lorna, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't care what anyone says. We're gonna do this every Thursday. Like I told you last week, we're gonna get together and we're gonna, cause it's good to see from a white person's perspective how they feel about racism.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then for you to hear how we feel about it. You know, even though you get out there and fight, you need to know how we feel about it.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
so whatever people say, we're going to continue to do this. But now next Thursday we're not going to be here because of Thanksgiving. I'm gonna be fatter and full, eating turkey and dressing and stuff. So,
Oh, me too. Me too.
so I do want to thank you, and I will see you probably in 2 weeks. Or if you want to come on next Friday, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want to do, and if you ever can get Dante Wright's mother to come on, that will be excellent. So,
Right, I'm going to leave her a message.
okay,
as
you
well,
too,
but
Dust. Happy Thanksgiving to you too.
I really just want to encourage everybody to keep them in your prayers.
Yes.
Like I said, the first day to his trial is going to be the 30th.
Yes. So, and let's hope that we get some kind of social justice, some kind of justice for Dante Wright. Because, like I said, if it's not justice, it's just ICE. JUSTICE. That's all it is. If we're not getting justice, it's just ICE. It's cold.
Yeah.
So, all right, y'all have a good night, and thank y'all, and please be safe. Bye bye. Thank you, Lorna.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So.
You